Okay, today we're going to start another project using the oven baked clay. Follow your baking instructions. Today we're going to make like a jewelry box or earring holder type thing. So you're going to need some type of jar the size you want it. And it's your clay. I just kind of make it up as I go. So we're going to make the bottom piece, which is be a round circular piece. Okay, so you want to get this out a little ways. Kind of judge it there, because you're going to build up around here. So that looks about right. And I can't find my clay rolling, so I do have a broken dough roller, which I use it. Just kind of go around. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Or you can even get around cutter if you want it that perfect. I just do everything by hand. Now we're going to go ahead and place this up. I'm going to put on the parchment paper because we're going to start building up and we're going to need to move it around without really moving it. So now we're going to make a braided bottom. So you want to make 3 long strands of your clay and just keep working them out and just keep going until you get your strands, pretty much the same length. So next, take and put the 3 pieces, just pinch them together right there. And I have to do this standing up. And we're going to braid this. And you just want to lay it one over the other. Sometimes you need something to hold there because you can see. And just braid it all the way down. And we're getting there. And you just keep. You want to go with how far around your circle is. You're going to need enough for it. Now if the pieces break off and you still need to go further, just go ahead and press it back on. It's not going to hurt anything, because you see where it kind of hides itself once you get everything going. Okay, now that should be enough really, I think so. I'll just put that one aside. And then bring my over here, my glass on that. Try to get it with the same amount, just a little bit hanging out. And then you're going to take this, and that's going to be the bottom piece. So you want to make sure it touches the clay down there, but yet snugs the glass to help hold it in place while you're going to build up on it from there. And then when you get to the end, just hide your little pieces there. So that's going to be the bottom base piece. Okay, so I'm kind of making this up as I go. And for my next row, I think I'm just going to wrap some long pieces around it. So I'm just going to start by attaching that in there, and I'm just going to work my way around it. Okay, and as you need more, just go ahead and make more. Your paint's going to be a lot of it, and then we're going to add stuff to it. So that piece falls off, put it back on. And just keep going with it. Okay, now I'm not going to make this, real tall starting out, but I want to kind of make it look almost like a branch. So I'm going to take real little thin pieces, and I'm just going to randomly set it on these. Make it look viney, like a vine. You know, and vines have different forms. So just, you know. Okay, and then usually I just go around and make sure they're, you know, they're attached. Going to paint this when we're done, so. Okay, and next I think just to add it some color, make little cherry balls. Just make a bunch of those. And I'm just going to randomly place these on here. I'm going to want to have to put a little color on this, and this is a great way of doing it. And you just randomly stick them on here. Try to put them in don't hide them too underneath, because like I said, you're going to, you know, just put them in different places because we're going to paint them afterwards. Yeah, one there. I just go around and randomly place, you know. Okay, and it looks like I've got everything on there. And you got to remember too that, you know, once you bake it and let it cool and then you paint it, that's when it really starts popping. And I see little flaws or something, let's hide it with one of them cherries. Because it don't have to be perfect. I might put a couple there. Now put it in the oven, let it bake. On this clay, it's 15 minutes for every 1/4 of an inch at 275 degrees. So on these type sizes, I usually average 30 to 45 minutes. So I'm going to put it in at, going to go ahead and put it in at 45 minutes. And once it gets baked, we'll take it out, let it cool, and then we'll take the glass off. It's only 275 degree, a mason jar, so this is nothing's going to happen to this in the oven there. Okay, it's just barely warm, and as you see, there's a little ply in it when you first take it out of the oven. And I dropped one cherry, but I'm not going to worry about that. You can glue those back on. And I'm just going to work it a little bit all the way around. So you can hear it coming out. And there you go. So we're going to let that finish cooling off, because the longer it cools off, the harder it gets. And then we'll start to paint it. And as always, you know, and you can use colored clay or whatever. I like to paint, and I can use every bit of this, so I'm not mixing colors together to where I can't reuse the colored clay again. So I'm just going to paint everything white. And I use acrylic paint. I'm not sure, I guess you can use just about any kind of paint, really. They're not watercolors. And you don't have to be neat with this, because you're just painting everything white. Get the inside real good, in between everything. And I just call slopping it on there. You can let that first coat dry, and you're going to give it a second coat. It just helps your colors pop more. Now on the inside, you want to make sure you don't have none of those paint strokes showing in there, because you don't want them to dry that way. You're going to have a little impression from the jar that you had sitting in there, but that's not going to matter, because once you get everything painted, it kind of hides a lot of stuff. Because once you bake this clay, it turns to like a tannish color, so I want it white. So I'm just going to kind of smush it all in there. Okay, we have everything painted white, so we're going to let that dry before we go to the using the colors. And then I'm just going to paint, that should come out a tan color, but that's good, this color I want. I'm going to try not to get it on the cherries and the vines, but if you do, don't worry about it. because, you know, you're going to paint over that. And you can always take some white when you're done and touch up little places first and let that dry before you do the brown and green and the reds and stuff on it. So we're just going to paint all around. Okay, and I just see it looks a little sloppy, but one thing about paint, you just keep going. And just try to dab it in the areas that you see any white at. So just get on there any way you can. Sometimes you're just shoving the paint in there. You don't have to be an artist. Like my husband will sometimes say, "What are you making? It looks like sloppy or something." But you know something, when you get to the final of it and you do your final touch-ups before you spray it, that's when you notice how well you've done your project. Okay, so now I'm going to start with the vines, and we'll stay within that color group. And you're just going to, you know, paint over them the best you can. Just take your time on it. It's not the best to paintbrush. And do every bit of them. Just take your time around the leaves and try not to get this on your background though. If you get the background on your vines and cherries before you paint those, that's fine because you're going to cover it up with a different kind of paint. But it's harder to touch up the background sometimes, so just really take your time when it comes to the finer pieces. I get a very narrow paintbrush, and I just like take my time with it and get it in there and just go very slowly and just go around the whole thing. Okay, and then once I get the vines painted, then that's when I'm going to go back and do a little touch-ups if I see anything that might for the background. And as you see, you don't have to be perfect. We still haven't gotten to the final stage yet, so just do your little touch-ups where you think you might have missed something or didn't get it quite fine. So go back around on the background. Okay, and then what I'm going to do now, before I paint the cherries, I'm just going to dab a little white where I've overpainted them a little too much, and just, you know, touch them up before I put the red on there. You don't have to be, you know, like I said, perfect. Just kind of cover up some of that brown paint marks that come across there, and do that to all the cherries. Okay, so now you're just going to go through and just start painting your cherries. Just be, you know, as careful and as slow. The further along you get, then the more careful you have to be with the paint. But, you know, that first coat, you can like slop that on. Here you're going to have to be a little bit more careful. And again, if you make a mistake, don't try to fix it. Let it dry before you do touch-ups. But just go around and paint all your cherries. Okay, now we're at the final touch-up. So after everything's dried, this is where you turn it all around. And if you see you missed anything or you need to touch it up, you know, just go in there, hold it in all angles, turn it around different ways, and you'll start seeing and do your little touch-ups. Okay, so once you've done all your touch-ups and you're ready to lacquer it, or I usually use, instead of the kind you have to paint on, I use the spray, either $1 or $2 can of spray gloss or spray lacquer, and I spray it all over, front, back, bottom, let the first coat dry and put a second coat on. It's just easier that way, and the lacquer seems to get in the crevices and everything really well without it getting too thick. And we have a finished product. You can add leaves or do all kinds of things with it, but now, you know, you can use that as little, put little earrings in or just miscellaneous stuff.